In conversation with Linda Drattel. Linda Drattel is an award-winning poet whose poetry and short fiction have appeared in several online publications and anthologies. She has won award for Writer's Digest, Reader's Views, and Independent Press Award. Her poetry was a finalist for the Atlanta Review Poetry International Grand Prize and longlisted for the C&R Press Poetry Prize. A first poetry collection, Remember This Day, Finishing Line Press, was published in 2023 and won a Bros Award for Reader View. A second poetry collection, The Lighter Side of Us Manure, was recently published by Finishing Line Press. An excerpt from the first two chapters of an unpublished novel, The Peccadillos of Philomena Fuse, was published in Embark Literary Journal. Writing has been reviewed in blogs, podcasts, and news media. Defined and artist, she relearned to navigate social, professional, and family relationships, which she chronicled in non-fiction article. Linda co-authored a children's book, Who Want to Be Friends with a Dragon, published in 2023, which won a distinguished Favorite Award from Independent Press Award. She presented at the 2024 International Stitching Plot and Laat Doving Congress in the Netherlands about taking control of one's hearing loss journey through writing. She holds an MBA from the American University and serves on the board of the California Communication Access Foundation. And on today's episode of Photo Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy, and excitement to have on the show today, Linda Drattel. How are you doing today, Linda? Welcome on the show.
I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me today, Peter.
Yeah, it's a pleasure really to have you on the show today. I'm quite excited we're here again to sit and have a conversation around your book. I haven't met, I think last month, maybe last 2 months, I can remember, at the London Book Fair. It's quite beautiful we are here again to sit and have a conversation over the internet space from physical meeting to online meeting. Sounds very fun. Thank you very much for coming on.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure as well. So, Linda, I need to first say that I am taken aback by the description page of your book, Remember This Day, on Amazon. And I would like to start this conversation by asking you the question as to how the book came to be, what inspired you to write Remember This Day, the foundation of it, and the storyline behind the making of it. If you can just run us through the background, the making of the book, that'll be very fun.
Sure. Remember This Day is a collection of poems that focus on the fear of surviving, the anguish and guilt of surviving, and compassion for those who are struggling to survive. Becoming more visual as I became deaf, I see things, I witness things as I'm walking or running through the park, and I start recording things that I see, such as the tree that's struggling to survive against raging waters after a rainstorm, or a group of goats that respect an alpha male who's struggling to still keep his position in a herd, even though he's suffering from the debilitating arthritis of old age, or a
Wow.
man who has passed away while sitting on a park bench, or the fact that my husband and I survived a terror attack on
Wow.
Bastille Day in Nice in 2016. Things like that. That's what I've written about. So I've lost my hearing when my children were young, at a time when they needed me most,
Mm.
and I lost my connection with my family. I lost my connection with the world, and I tried to find a way to feel relevant. And what I found as I became more aware of my surroundings. For example, in that terror attack, I realized what was happening faster than everyone else because I recognized the gunshots before everyone else did, because there was a lot of noise. There were fireworks, there was band music, but I couldn't hear any of it. But for some reason, the sound of the gunshots I could still hear. And I recognized them for what they were. And I grabbed my husband and I pulled him to safety quicker than other people could run. So things like that. But what I found, the reason I started writing my poetry was
Mhm.
that I was afraid to forget things. I was afraid to forget what it was like that night. I was afraid to forget, for example, when I had a horse who died of old age,
Mm.
and my goats, and I was afraid to forget what it was like when I raised them, and
Mm.
what it was like, what they went through. And so I started recording things as poems. And when I did that, I released that pressure to remember things because I
Mm.
thought, okay, now I can forget. And if I ever want to remember, I can go back and look and see what I wrote down on the page.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I found was that when I wrote things down, I wrote them in a more general way.
Mm.
And that way, other people could connect with what I wrote.
Mm.
And that meant a lot to me as well.
Wow. It's quite beautiful to know, really. I love listening to you talk about this. I love listening to you share about your story towards the making of Remember This Day. And I love everything you've shared so far, from the inspiration to what prompted you to write the book and to all the things you've mentioned so far. Quite beautiful, really. And I need to say thank you very much for sharing and letting us know more about the making of Remember This Day. And if you have a copy,
That's
beautiful
welcome.
cover, I was just about to ask you to show to the camera. And I can see there's an award beside it over there. What's the name of the award, and how does winning the award makes you feel as a writer?
Winning the award made me feel amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it's the
Yeah,
Bronze Award from Reader
beautiful
Views.
award.
Being that this was my very first poetry collection,
Mm.
at first I thought it was crazy that someone agreed to publish my work.
Yeah.
And it felt very good to be awarded the Bronze Award because then it justified why the publisher agreed to publish my work. So, yeah, it felt very good.
Quite lovely. I love that, really. Now, Linda, I also see that you have another book titled The Lighter Side of Horse Manure. For readers who haven't read that yet, and without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what you would expect in terms of themes and subject lines picking up the lighter side of horse manure?
Sure. This is the lighter side of horse manure.
Oh, nice.
And the cover actually was designed by my step grandson.
Oh, wow.
He got me and he got the gist of my poems. I wrote these poems actually because my horse was aging and there was a barn manager who wanted me to put my horse down
Oh,
because she felt that his life wasn't worth keeping. And the first poem in this book is actually about that conversation where she felt, hey, I've got other horses you can run for $50 an hour. Why do you insist on keeping this horse around?
wow.
Well, he was 34. I'd had him for 29 years and he was my
Wow.
best friend. He helped
Wow.
me raise my children.
Interesting.
He was the sweetest thing in the world. And why would I
Mm.
just willy-nilly put him down?
Wow.
So it was quite upsetting to me. And so I hung out with him each day. And it's very funny when you hang out with animals, you start seeing all of their silly shenanigans. And he and his horse buddies actually, they chat with each other. We may not understand their language, but you see the body language and they're nickering and they're biting
Shenanigans.
at each other's manes. And I hung out at the water cooler with them. And oh my God, it was like, oh, I called it a water cooler. It was a water trough, but I swear to God, it was like the water cooler in an office.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's
Oh,
what I did. I wrote poems about the water trough, like it was a water cooler.
wow.
My favorite poem is I imagine him saying thank you, where I'm
Oh,
sitting there mucking his stall, and he's giving me this look like, why are you doing that? I
wow.
wouldn't be doing that, but thank you. And then a friend of mine came to me
Wow.
one day and she was just furious because a man said to her, she had long black hair,
Mm.
and a man said to her, you know, from the rear, you would make the most gorgeous horse because her hair reminded him of a horse's tail. So
Mm.
I wrote a poem about that. And I wrote a poem about a squirrel in a tree talking about switching places and what that would be like. And of course, it doesn't turn out as they imagine. And I wrote about vet visits and farrier visits, trimming the hooves.
Mm.
And I chose different styles of poetry to project each one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're familiar with a gazelle, but a gazelle, it has a certain beat to it. And so I use that to describe the horse's beating of his hooves and the relation to the farrier trimming his hooves. I
Wow.
use prose style. I use rhyming. I describe the manure pile. I have one poem that's about the farm, and that's in the form of a palindrome. That's
Mm.
like the name Hannah, Hannah. You can read it forwards and backwards. It's the same. So that's that poem.
Wow. That's such an amazing one, really. I need to say that I love your description of that. It's so much fun, so interesting, so captivating, and so compelling, really. Very lovely. I mean, your excitement, even talking about that as well. It's a fun one. And it's one full of, and I can see even from the title, the lighter side of Hosmanor, your description of that looks to me to be quite beautiful. And to know that it's poem too. I'm a poet, you're a poet, we are both poet, and it's always lovely when you have two poets talking and having a chat around poetry collections and poetry generally. It's a beautiful one. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love the sound of that, really. Thank you. I also know, Linda, your children's book, Who Wants to Be Friends with a Dragon, has a unique premise. I'm curious to ask you too about the inspiration behind that story as well, if you'd like to tell us.
Sure. This is Who Wants to Be Friends with a Dragon. That started because I always had a love of languages. And even though I lost my hearing, I wanted to learn Spanish.
Oh, wow.
And I found a tutor, Eve Marie Little, who is my co-author for this book. And
Interesting.
she was teaching me one-on-one. And because I had a hard time hearing, we focused on reading children's books together. And then one day she said, all right, for homework, you're going to write children's story. So we started talking about what this children's story would be like. And we started talking about a dragon, and he has all of these attributes that are different, right? He's got sharp nails and scales and a long tail, and he breathes fire.
Mm.
And we both got really excited about this dragon. And we were talking about the dragon. We said, the dragon's not going to feel comfortable being around other animals and people
Yeah,
because he feels different. He's going to
yeah.
isolate himself, and he's going to be shy and withdrawn, and he's not going to want to make friends, and he's not going to want to go to parties. And I said, Eve, that dragon is me because I lost my hearing. That's
Mm,
exactly what people who lose their hearing do. They don't want to go out. They don't want to go to parties. They
mm.
don't know how to socialize. They've lost their ability to
Yeah,
communicate.
yeah.
So she said, Linda, I'm half Mexican. That dragon is me because I don't fit in anywhere.
Mm.
So we were both laughing. And so we wrote this story together. And then
Wow.
we found an illustrator, Mark Vicente,
Oh.
and he's the son of Filipino immigrants. And he said, no, 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 that dragon is me because I'm the son of Filipino immigrants. And he started adding to the story. So we were cracking up. We said, you know what? That dragon really represents anybody who's different,
Yeah,
whether it's religion or you're an
absolutely.
immigrant or you're too tall or you're not smart
Yeah.
enough, whatever it is that you feel
Mm,
that causes you to self isolate. And we
absolutely.
wrote this story from the dragon's perspective.
Mm,
Usually it's outside and it's someone being afraid of the dragon, but this is the dragon being afraid of everybody else.
yeah.
And then he meets a boy who accepts him exactly for who he is.
Oh, wow.
And it's a lovely story of acceptance, and it received a lot of kudos. The CEO of the California Communications Access Foundation wrote a blurb. Several resource teachers, a
Mm,
teacher of the deaf, and in addition to that, the California School for the Deaf in Fremont, on their own, decided to translate it into sign language.
mm.
And they posted it as a video on YouTube
Wow.
because they so felt it had an important message for deaf students. So
Mm,
they did that, and they invited me to come and speak to their school.
wow.
So we're just very excited about that book.
Oh, wow. That's quite amazing to know, really. That's quite a journey, really. Quite beautiful. And it's quite fun to know that you were invited to speak to, the school. I can imagine that would be quite a beautiful and lovely conversation. And I'm sure the students will be very excited to have somebody like you around. And it's quite beautiful, really, to know about the making of that too. Thank you for sharing. And to know you've got a lot of books even out there. It's something that's quite what commendable to me. Thank you for taking the time to even come and share the stories with us. It's a good one. Thank you. And also, Linda, many of your works touch on themes of resilience and healing. What personal experiences or influence shape your writing? And also, do you see writing as a form of advocacy, especially for those with disabilities?
Well, of course, my experience is being deaf myself
Yeah,
and my personal experiences, like what I explained, what I've been through personally.
yeah.
But also, I worked for several years as a peer support specialist in a deaf agency. I worked also in community relations
Mm,
and as an advocate for the deaf and hard of hearing. I had to relearn how to navigate social, professional, and family relationships. And I chronicled that process through articles in newsletters, magazines, and a poetry anthology.
oh, wow.
Time slows down for me as a deafened person. And what I found mostly is that I need to communicate my emotions on a page rather than verbally. It
Mm,
helps me.
oh, wow.
I've worn many hats in my professional life. I've done financial analysis. I've been a writer, a poet. I currently serve on the board of a nonprofit
Mm,
that provides philanthropy support for advocacy and services for community access
oh,
for disabled populations.
interesting.
And I'm most proud of when I serve my community. And these days, I feel I do that most properly when I'm writing.
Oh, wow. That's quite amazing to know, really. I love your take on that. I particularly love your answer to that. You saying writing as a form of advocacy, especially for those with disabilities. That's a very good one, really. Yeah, quite amazing and quite wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning. And I wanted to ask you, Linda, I'd like to ask you because one of the things I love to ask poets is the definition of poetry, what it means to them. For someone like me, poetry means a lot to me. It could be a healing journey, it could be a therapy, it could be so many things. It could be more like a lover, it could be it means a form or that platform that gives me the voice, that gives me the opportunity to be able to share my works out there to the people. But then, as a poet yourself, I wanted to ask you, what does poetry means to you? How would you define poetry in your own words and in your own language?
I would say poetry, it's a vignette that you experience like a painting. A few simple words can provide such a profound impact on somebody,
Hmm.
and it can provide a profound impact on yourself.
Yeah.
I found that with this love of language, I create stories, and this creating stories is like building a house, one
Yeah.
room at a time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And each room can be public or private. Some rooms you
Mm.
don't have to ever show anybody, and
Absolutely.
other rooms you have to decide if you want to share. I mean, they can be
Mm.
like your living room or your dining room, and you invite people in.
Mm.
And that's what I enjoy about poetry.
Mm.
I have a poetry critique group in California because I lived 6 months in California and 6 months in Barcelona. And even when I'm in Barcelona, I would not miss a meeting for the world. And that means that the meetings for me here in Barcelona are 10 o'clock at night while it's 1 o'clock there for them. But I wouldn't miss a meeting for the world. And
Wow.
everybody in this group of 9 or 10 people writes in a different style.
Mm.
And it's amazing. I glean so much from each one of them.
Mm.
Some write very long poems, some write haibans, some write haiku, some write from past traumas,
Mm.
some write healing poems, and they're all absolutely fantastic. And
Mm.
I just feel I've grown after I've been in such a meeting.
Mm.
So, and then even my own poems, when I get a critique back, I realize what I'm missing and it helps me grow.
Mm.
But I know that a poem can also, if done properly, can help
Yeah.
someone else by helping them interpret your poem in their own way. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be how you wrote it, but
Right.
it has to be. a way that they can interpret it so that it means something to them. So I never
Wow.
try to make it specific. I try to make it general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you one example.
Yeah, I
I
love
have
it.
a poem in Remember This Day called The Torrent and the Tree, about
Mm.
the tree fighting the raging river.
Wow.
Is it a poem about a tree? Is it a poem about a group of people struggling to survive against attack? Is it a nation trying to remain a nation against another nation attacking it?
Mm.
Or is it about the woman who purchased the book who's undergoing chemo who told me, I am the tree?
You know,
And that's what I love about it. It gives me chills still to think about that when she bought the book.
absolutely. Oh wow, that's such an amazing one. A lovely feedback. And I love your definition of poetry. You're talking about poetry can be likened to as a house that has different rooms in it. And some could be private, some could be public, some could be maybe sitting room, you invite people to come in, or you're dining, you invite people to come in, or your kitchen even, invite people to come and have a taste of what you're cooking. But an other way around, sometimes in your bedroom, you're just like, oh no, I want to be private in here. That's a lovely, beautiful, and quite cinematic definition of poetry to me. I love it wholeheartedly. I mean, as a fellow poet, I can relate. It's one of the things to mention, especially you relating it to a house that has different rooms in it, with one being private and one being public. That's such a lovely definition. I love it wholeheartedly. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. And also, apart from the books we've mentioned so far, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on?
Let's see. Right now, I'm working on the full-length novel, Peccadillos of Philomena Phipps. And that I'm going to share with you. I've been working on for 27 years.
What? That's a lot.
It's just been a constant thing. And it's the kind of
What?
thing I would share with readers. You never give up on something. And when I first started
That's a
it,
lot.
it was a way to laugh about a predicament I was in. And I found other people who found they were in the same predicament. And they actually accused me of writing about them when I was
Wow,
really writing
really?
about myself. But
Wow.
then when you start putting things on paper and you share with others and they don't quite find your humor funny. And
Mm,
so you go through a series of beta readers
yeah,
and you change what you write.
yeah,
I've kept the same theme all along, but I've changed the
yeah.
way I've written it. And so I'm hoping that it's at a point where it's marketable.
Mm,
But I've been working on that. I have several poems that are being published this year with
wow.
BWA Magazine, Ranger Magazine,
Oh,
and
wow.
later this year in the fall with Deaf Poetry Now. And then this month, Dublin Poetry Walk in
Wow.
California has one of my poems on display.
Wow. Oh, that's quite an amazing one, really. Quite lovely, quite great, and quite beautiful. I love your take on that. And that's quite a lot. You've been working on the book for 27 years. I thought myself, I've been working on the book for the past, I think, 2019 till now, should be 5 years already. And I feel that's such a long one. I'm like, oh God, I've been on this for the past 5 years. And hilariously, I'm at chapter 9. Not to talk of someone writing the book for 27 years. That's a lot. Oh my goodness. That's such an amazing one you
Obviously,
share.
I've grown through the process.
Right? It's a beautiful one. That's almost my age, yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow, that's so lovely. So Linda, I also wanted to ask you, how do you use humor both as a coping mechanism and as a therapeutic power in the face of adversity? Because I mean, even from this conversation, I find it to be quite fun, so lovely, so beautiful that we can smile, have a conversation, and have a conversation around your books, your title. Even though some of them are very interesting and some are very emotional, yeah, it's always very fun having a conversation around things like this. But then I also wanted to ask you, how do you use humor, both as a coping mechanism and as a therapeutic power in the face of adversity? I would love your take on that.
Well, I think it's interesting how powerful humor can be.
It is.
Sometimes people think that they can hurt you, that they have power over you.
Mm,
that they can control you.
mm.
And then when you use humor,
Yeah,
they realize they have no power at
at
all.
all.
And that's what I've learned, especially in writing my second book, The Lighter Side of Horse Manure. That bar manager had no power over me and had no power over my horse. We
Mm,
eventually left and found a better place to keep my horse.
mm.
But I enjoyed writing and keeping my head up and my back straight
Yeah.
and using laughter to maintain a healthy disposition. I
Oh,
never rounded my shoulders.
oh.
So I think that's what humor does.
Amazing, really. I love your take, and that's so powerful and very important, really. Very important. And humor sometimes can be so powerful. It can be healing. Yeah, it can be such an amazing healing technique. Yeah, I've read books about stroke survival and its utilization of humor to convey situation and how it was able to transfer and change a depressing situation to something to make fun of while also at the same time embracing the beauty of life. It's a beautiful one, really, which I found to be quite amazing. It's lovely to hear about that from you too. Thank you for sharing.
Actually, my Peccadillos of Philomena Phipps
Yeah.
has is packed full of humor.
Wow.
Absolutely packed full of humor. And I just heard back from a beta reader who said he doesn't normally read this kind of book. He's more
Mm,
into crime and mystery and murder thrillers. And he said he could not stop laughing.
mm,
So even though it's about a subject, it's about an immigrant woman who is rejected by her white picket fence, upwardly mobile
mm,
neighborhood in America. She uses humor throughout, even though she doesn't try to. I mean, I'm using the humor throughout for her,
mm.
and and she succeeds, and you
Wow.
can't help but root on for her.
That's interesting. I love your take on that. That's quite lovely and quite amazing. Before I proceed, I'd like you to show all the books again to the camera, one after the other, from the first one to the
Sure.
second one to the third one. Yeah, beautiful one. Amazing. Yeah.
And this one.
Yeah. Lovely. Lovely.
This
Voice.
one also uses a lot of humor.
Oh, beautiful
Some of
illustration
the
in
pictures
there.
are absolutely hysterical.
Lovely. Oh,
Like,
wow. That's
like when he
amazing.
breathes
Oh, look at
fire,
that.
he's asked to blow out the candles on the cake.
Oh,
And then, of course, he screws up and everybody's covered in soot.
oh, wow.
So we use a lot of humor in this book as well.
That's an amazing one, really. Thank you for sharing. And just in case we have some viewers who are watching this interview and would love to get a copy of any of your books, on what platform are they available on for purchase?
Yes, they're all three are available on Amazon. And I think internationally, that's probably the easiest way to purchase them. If you're in the States, the publisher is Dorrance Publishing Company for the Dragon Book.
Hmm.
And for my two poetry books, it's Finishing Line Press.
Hmm.
But again, all three are on Amazon.
That's amazing. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Linda Dattrell book directly on Amazon, on Barnes& and Nobles, on our website, and also on other platforms. I also left a link to our social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Linda, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. And also this conversation, it's been more than awesome. Very lovely, quite powerful, quite great, sitting down and having a conversation around the beautiful titles. I need to say it's quite beautiful, and thank you so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure. And I just want to say for anybody that is thinking of getting published and is finding it very frustrating,
Yeah.
I want to say that years ago, I happened to be walking through a mall and I saw Brian Jacques, if you've ever heard of him.
Mm.
He did the Redwall series. It's 16 books right now, but at the time it
Oh.
was 11 books.
Oh.
And he had boxes. He was very humble. He had boxes of his books on the floor in the middle of the mall trying to sell them. And at the time, my son refused to read anything. And
Oh,
I had decided that it was just a matter of him finding the right book. And I
oh,
listened to this guy speak,
yeah.
and I was fascinated. He had hardcovers and some painted pictures inside.
Mm.
And I was floored by them. And I
Wow.
bought four of them, and my son just ate them up. And he ended up reading all 11 copies of the books of his at the time. And you just don't stop. You just try your best any way you can.
Absolutely. That's a lovely addition you've gotten there. That's an amazing addition. Thank you very much, Linda. This was quite great.
My pleasure.
Yeah.